It's okay.
So thank you. I was a pleasure to talk. First time, as I say, I've ever talked down here, and it's as having spoken to at least 250,000 people or more in this marijuana speaking movement for the last 20 years or so. I mean, it's really a privilege to be speaking here. This is such a amazing. So thank you, Marvin the Party, and good night.
And put you in a damn plane so you can
For Marvin!
Be smarter than that. It is important. Start with this book if you want to know about that.
They said I was long.
The library doesn't have it. You make them send out.
But that's another
story.
Find
it for you.
Sorry if I was so loud and hurt anybody's eardrums.
Stops addiction in one dose. It is also comes from a plant.
I guess that's just the way it is.
You know, these plants were put here by your creator.
Anyway, I
want
to introduce Mike Whitty.
You should be upset
Mike Whitty is also a professor. He's a professor at USD. He's an activist and not just for marijuana, but for everything that's good for the planet. But he wants to come up and
if that was the case, well then why isn't there oil higher up for other animals?
But
it's a religion. They're teaching you a religion.
He's got a really good announcement, and I'm jealous because I shouldn't be. I'm going to be in Hawaii at the time, but I've always wanted to meet this man. And when you make the announcement, you tell a little bit about him, or take your time with the announcement and anything else. If we could talk mostly about medical marijuana on the planet, that would be really good.
Everything doesn't end when you graduate high school.
Because it's so important for so many people that need it, probably almost everybody.
Once you know how to read, write, and add,
let alone everything else. And humanitarianism is just that, humane, humanitarian, and you don't see too much of it anymore, except for the places that you do, and then it's so honored. Because it's so special. And without further ado, here's Mike Whitty.
They're strapping bombs to their ass
with my voice.
We have reduced them to that.
Okay, thanks, Susan. I want to thank Jay and Paul and their crew for organizing this every year.
And we went in and mowed them all down and told these people in the desert they have to grow rice. Rice don't grow in the
chosen
desert.
ones. And that means wherever you live, whatever you do, you guys include this issue.
Yeah, they have all the amino and fatty acids your body needs to stay alive. The Ethiopians survived 3 major famines on nothing but the hemp and marijuana seed. The jar is just stems. The jar is stems. You see the paper that he made with it down there? See this paper?
Oh, yeah.
He made it out of this stuff. He just took his stems in there, chopped them all up, threw in some water and some it's chlorine.
On your way home tonight, it's a vegan restaurant.
Makes the finest papers. I mean, that's just a little home job. You know, but you can make papers as soft as silk.
We can find each other socially. They have activities every week.
You've already lost my friend and moved on to another one, have you?
Yeah.
Sunday, the 13th, the week from Sunday. I have
where do you go to get this
Be able to
book?
get this at any bookstore.
And a blue flyer.
They don't have it.
Where I want your help.
And you can go to jackwearer.com.
Medical marijuana initiative scheduled
Get it straight from the author.
2008 ballot.
Do without the middleman.
Petition coordinator Crystal, if you'll raise your hand, if you're interested
Yeah, the books are show and tell, but
petition work,
museum type stuff, but we do have some free literature. We got some ACLU stuff that's really good too,
she's the
actually.
state organizer.
Is that this stuff in this box?
So at some
Yeah,
point,
actually,
Crystal, you should
once
get up
this
here
starts getting
as
depleted,
well.
they need to be fully
And,
depleted. But we
welcome
that's
to
cool.
Michigan, Crystal. Appreciate you being here.
I'm allergic to fiberglass insulation. I can see that. Insulation, total hoax. That replaces fiberglass insulation. It does? Yeah, I thought. It's fireproof.
This stuff?
That's fireproof?
That's a shingle. It goes on your roof.
That's fireproof.
Makes it so the water don't go away.
I'm allergic to fiberglass insulation. That would be awesome. I could have a house and put that in there instead.
Be able to join that organization. If you come to an event that I'm organizing on June 8th, the Blue Flyer has that event. I'm going to talk to you just briefly about it. It's also here in downtown Detroit, virtually walkable from this location. It's on a Friday afternoon, June 8th, the first Friday in June, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, because the international figure, Eaton Nadelman, is making his first Detroit speaking appearance at the University of Detroit Mercy Law School, which is across from the Ren Center, the GM building on Jefferson. It's an old, historic law school. Event is free. Nadelman is the leader of the Drug Policy Alliance. This is the largest drug reform organization in the world. They're working internationally to medicalize, not criminalize all drugs. And they do support, of course, the decriminalization of marijuana and the medical marijuana initiative, which is our way to kind of get our foot in the door, get people thinking about our issues in broader terms and more compassionate terms. We're really talking about compassion here. That's what it does for me. Cannabis opens my heart, makes me calmer and kinder. The other night I watched some guy break my drum head at a drumming circle. But thanks to the sacred herb, I was able to get through that moment of pain when something value was broken by somebody else. It's those kind of practical day-to-day things that come up in our lives when something goes wrong and we feel hurt or slighted or we have the blues for some reason. This is medicine for us. And a friend of mine in California who I worked with about a decade ago, Dennis Perone, who initiated the medical marijuana initiative in California, Prop 215, he used the phrase, all use is medical use. Stop and think about that. All use is medical use. He means that everybody has the blues. Everybody's hurting a little bit. Everyone is suffering. That's the wisdom of the Buddhist. Everyone is suffering. And our role as reformers is first to heal ourselves so we take the anger and fear out of our hearts. And then we become Buddhist bodhisattvas, people who are relieving suffering in the world. That's why I'm involved in the medical marijuana movement, because it's relieving concrete physical suffering, but there's also mental suffering, friends. We all suffer back, and we need some relief from the subtler, less easily diagnosed aspects of depression. I call it having the blues. So I want you to really see that we're dealing with sacred herb and we've got a serious mission, and yes, it's great to celebrate life. I want to include that aspect. Ethan Nadelman is a very articulate international leader coming to Detroit in 1 month. It'll give us another chance to get together. It'll give you a chance to say, this movement has credibility. I can be brave and invite some of my friends down to the University of Detroit University Law School on Jefferson, at Bobby and across from the GM building. It's easy to find. We've got free parking there. You could have lunch at Greektown, enjoy this talk. If you have a love for Detroit like I do, you take a drive around Belle Isle, even this afternoon on your way out of here when there's still daylight. You can see the river on a really nice spring day. That's a beautiful aspect of a beautiful city. I think we have to remember that Detroit is a city of hope. I call Detroit the holy city. You can say that you heard that from Dr. Detroit this afternoon at Grand Circus Park. Detroit, the holy city. All use is medical use, and let's stick with this and win it. Thank you very much, Susan.
Thank you, Mike. Dr. Detroit, very well put. He said what I, really felt about, from the heart. I said marijuana has saved my life and so many people's life. I went to the Haight-Ashbury in 1967, the Summer of Love, and I think the only reason that we weren't taken seriously is because hard drugs got involved, politics got involved, the media got involved, and as usual, things can get screwed up. But there's still places like the Rainbow Gathering where you'll see 20,000 of us in the summer. We're not so small. Detroit does have a reputation, I think, because it's such a working city, and there's so much empathy we need for the people that are out here struggling almost 24/7 just to stay above water. And I know the water bill issue in Detroit was really heavy. They did a lot to try to keep it going for the people that are. I mean, survival is a bitch. If you can't survive, it's really hard to get other things done. But like I said, people like me that have been blessed to always be able to find the special and spiritual weed, it has been a real lifesaver. And that is so important in this day and age. It's not a little issue. It's not, none of the issues are little. From dandelions, like I said before, when we stomp on them, we stomp on people. And there's just so much death and destruction, and it needs to be stopped. It needed to be stopped years ago, or ever. Why don't the government understand how important life is instead of death? Their God is guns, oil, and drugs, pharmaceuticals, and over-the-counter drugs. And it keeps us numbed down and dumb and dumber. And even a person like me that has to take a drug, like the cortisone, because I didn't know because I was a child, I at least reached out to books and psychedelic drugs and marijuana. And I went through the hard drugs too and found out firsthand how bad they really are for you. But like someone even told me today, cigarettes is harder to get off of than heroin. So maybe I wasn't so cool just getting off of heroin. That's just, you know, baby stuff. But I never did smoke cigarettes, but I don't have much empathy for people that smoke, because I guess I figure if you can get off almost anything bad, why does everyone have to be such whiners about those damn nicotine?
Way more money on parts.
We have so much less slavery in this country if we quit smoking cigarettes, but that's another issue, and I'm going
That's
off,
right.
like I said.
The oil companies don't want you to grow
I'm like Marvin, I just love to talk, and that's why I don't get mad at him. I love him. I'm so glad he was up here, and I hope he can come back up again.
Anyone know what time it is? 4:20. Yeah. Now we're marching at 4:20. If it's 4:20, we're late. Eastern sprint time, 1:40.
The oil company.
Hard to see Susan. What can you say?
Country somewhere, and she's with Don't Waste Michigan. She's an environmental activist. She's going to talk about medical marijuana, though, because it is part of that. And I know she's also very interested in indigenous people and the Native American and the love for all people. So without further ado, here's Cathy Barnes.
Hey, thank you.
Hey!
I was walking around out there and somebody went by and they said, "Whoa, stoner convention, awesome." You know? Anyway, I'm an old flower child. And I got involved with the peace movement in the 70s, was incarcerated, went through the ringer, and I came out and they really didn't change me too much. They made me more radical. And then from the peace movement, people from the peace movement got into the environmental movement. So basically in Michigan here, we've been focusing on the nuclear issues because this is such a pocket of, well, for a while it was chemical things with Dow and Monsanto, etc. Now we have problems, big time issues with the nuclear. Before I get into the marijuana thing, I want to bring up 3 issues. I hope that you can handle this stuff and remember it and do something about it, because there's 3 big nuclear issues that Detroit needs to know about. I don't know if you know about this stuff or not. But one is they're thinking about building a new Fermi. And you guys know the first Fermi was shut down because it was cracking. They didn't really even open it. Fermi 1 went down before it was finished. Fermi 2 has been having so many problems. In 1990, I believe, it almost had a meltdown. There's a book about how they almost lost Detroit. That thing almost melted down, and you guys wouldn't even be here if it had melted down. Now they want to build a new Fermi. You need to go out. You need to stop it. It's going to take people power. A lot of people protesting. Call up your Congress people every day. Say no more nuclear. If one person calls their congressperson every day and hounds them, it'll help stop it. Okay, that issue, no Fermi. Second issue, radioactive waste. Now this is a big issue because, and it's hard to deal with because it's Canada. Bruce, which is just upstream from the Detroit River, Lake Huron, Bruce Nuclear, Ivan Huron, if you look on the map, Kincardine, Ivan Huron in Canada. I walked with Native Americans on one of the walks around the Great Lakes. I was on part of the walk, Lake Superior, part of the walk, Lake Huron. Well, we went through the Bruce area. Bruce Nuclear is an awful, huge monster of a nuclear power plant set right out on Lake Huron. At the present moment, they've started drilling 1,500 meters down into the rock underneath the lake, and their plan is to inject nuclear waste underneath Lake Huron. Now, how are they going to monitor it if it leaks? How are they going to know? There's an earthquake fault that runs through the state, probably runs under Lake Huron up in Canada. I'm just guessing the way things are. And that could break up anything down there too. So, they haven't even done an environmental impact statement in Canada to address this. This is another thing we need to get on, to stop them from burying nuclear waste under Lake Huron. Because believe me, your grandchildren will have to deal with it if they get away with doing it. They're starting the drilling right now. Third thing, this isn't nuclear, but it's a Detroit thing. They've got PCBs in the Kalamazoo River they've been dredging up. These are really cancer-causing chemicals that are really deadly. They wanted to put them in a poor neighborhood in Kalamazoo. That's called environmental racism. When you take nuclear or industrial, whatever, toxic waste and put it in a poor neighborhood or dump it on the Indians, that's environmental racism. So the people in Kalamazoo got organized. They went out and they marched. They went to the town meetings. They put up a big fuss and they got it out of their community. Now it's headed for Zeeland and Detroit. Zeeland's been putting up a fight. I haven't heard anything about Detroit. So you guys in Detroit need to get organized and fight against your community becoming a dump site for PCBs from the Kalamazoo River. Okay, enough said. That's the end of the bummers I'm going to talk about. This is a good thing. Marijuana is a beautiful little plant. I happen to know what it looks like, smells like, whatever. It's a nice little plant. It's a beautiful little thing. In fact, it's got some very good agricultural uses. Organically, you can use it in a cornfield, and it keeps the bugs off the corn. It's also a beautiful plant to use to make beautiful products out of clothing, all kinds of nice things. In fact, you know all those macrame things made out of jute? That's the hemp plant. And if you burn that stuff, it smells like hemp. So anyway, it's got a lot of uses, agricultural and also the medicinal use. I used to have a little golden book, which I don't have anymore. It kind of disappeared. But in there it said that marijuana has been, given a bad rap, and it shouldn't be because they are just beginning to find out about all the medical uses. There's also other plants in the creation, God-made things, which are euphoric and very nice, and people that know about them use them for things. Colicky babies, depression. They're mildly euphoric and real nice, and I'm not going to tell you what they are because if I told you what they are and the news got out to the wrong people, they would criminalize them, and there'd be more plants on the blacklist. So all you people here, I got to give it to you. You're very brave, and God bless every one of you for standing up for what you believe in. And I'm sure glad that the Lord above is happy that not everybody is down in His creation. And I'm just starting out with documentary stuff. This is my first, filming. So I'm really green at it. And I want to make a film on Rainbow Farms. And I went on the action there, Labor Day last year. It was awesome. The people there were so beautiful. And they said the story isn't being told. So I want to do a documentary through the hearts and minds of the people that knew Tom and Raleigh about Rainbow Farms, because I feel that everybody should know about it and everybody should feel the justice of it in their heart. So that's my project. And if anyone knows New Tom and Raleigh and wants to be in the documentary, I would appreciate it if you get in touch with me. Anyway, there's a website about the nuclear thing if you want to find out more about that, and it's easy to remember. It's NIRS.org. That's NIRS.org. So, power to the people, and I'm very happy to see John Sinclair free. So, God bless y'all. Bye.
It's my turn now. What's happening? Yeah. Smoking a joint. Oh, rolling.
Susie's asked me to talk a little on Rainbow Farms. Who doesn't know Rainbow Farms? Can you raise your hand if you don't know Rainbow Farms? One person? Okay, well I'll tell you then. Rainbow Farms was kind of some very nice people that had like a big, it was kind of like a little mini Woodstock. You know, where people went and they had music and it was very nice. Anyway, what happened was a series of events. Child custody, a child was taken away from some people, and it got pretty bad. And when they faced forfeiture,
you told me that.
They started to burn down things, and then 200 federal agents went out. And Gestapo down. They shut off. They blockaded the roads. They shut everything down, and they went in and murdered 2 men. It was a massacre, and from what I understand, agents went in there and they just shot at everything. And when I visited a place, I went through this cold spot. You know, when you go to a place that's haunted or where there is a massacre, you get a cold feeling, and you know something bad happened there. And I asked some of the people that knew more than I did, you know, what happened in this spot? Oh, that's where it was loaded with the SWATs, and they were just shooting at everything, and it was from here that they killed the first man, Tom, and then later they killed Raleigh. My sister tried to get out there that day when she heard something was happening and the roads were blockaded. A few people walked in and witnessed some things. So that's what happened. It was a murder. It was a Waco, a Ruby Ridge, and people don't know about it because right after that 9/11 happened, and the Rainbow Farm issue kind of didn't get out. So that's what it's going to be about. Through the hearts and the minds of people that knew Tom and Riley, their remembrances, and I want people to know that these were 2 good people that should not have been killed. Nobody should be killed like that. So that's what that's about.
Thank you, Cathy. I'm glad I was going to mention the 9/11 and she didn't. It actually did make headlines in the free press and news. It was a headline, and then 9/11 happened several hours later and it went from headlines to like nothing. So some people might have been aware. And if anybody didn't raise their hand because they thought that was Rainbow Gathering, and Rainbow Farm is totally different. It's nothing to do with the Rainbow Gathering. And that's the story of it. Without further ado...
I'm going to interject in here and then we're going to get back to Susan here. But I wanted to also mention today, there is a book out called Burning Rainbow Farm, How Stoner Paradise Went Up in Smoke. There's a lot of me in that book. There's a lot of credible friends of mine in that book. So it's really a must-read to really get your head around the situation at Rainbow Farm. I think it should be turned into a made-for-TV movie myself, because we need to get the message out about how cold our government is. In LA, when the LAPD, the most violent police force in the country, beats up on a bunch of illegal immigrants, illegal Americans, they're apologizing and they're getting in trouble. If they were to come in here and beat up on a bunch of hippies, they'd be pinning medals on each other. Why is it safer to be an illegal American than to be a pot smoker in America? That's what I want to know. So buy the book Burning Rainbow Farm too, and any more material we can get out, any media we can get out to get this story out. I'm going to be both barrels blazing. You know, sign me up for that movie. I had a place there. Put me under an easy up on the vendor's row if you have to. I'll be there. So back to Susan.
Thank you, Jay. If anyone wanted to speak or wants to that I don't know about, please get in touch with me. I'll be down there after I introduce the next speaker. I'm also supposed to be a speaker, but since I've been speaking so much anyway, what kind of a MC am I? I have done it where you just introduce people. I know how to be formal also. But this is such a day to just, you know, look up at the sky and see these trees. trees and just want to talk about my favorite plant, marijuana. Next up is Matthew Abel, who's an attorney. He does general counsel, and he's with Michigan Normal, and he's a political activist. I've seen him at Green meetings. I don't know the Green Party exactly what his other affiliations are, but he's very much into all kinds of things also because he cares about the environment and the people and the marijuana plant. So without further ado, here's Matthew Abel.
All righty. Thanks, Susan. Hi, my name is Matt Abel, and I am a marijuana lawyer. I defend people charged with marijuana offenses. I do a few other things, but not much. Most of my practice is marijuana law. And if you've got my business card today, I hope you read the back of it because there's some free advice there, and if more of my clients took it, I'd have less work. So let me just say, law enforcement can and will lie to you. They will lie to you. So keep your mouth shut. I don't care what they tell you. If they ask you a question, you ask them a question back. Don't lie to them, but don't give them any information. Don't sign anything. Nothing. Do not sign the advice of rights form that says, here, we have advised you of your rights. Write a line across it and put refused. Do not answer any questions. Do not admit anything. Do not say, I was just smoking it, I wasn't selling it. That doesn't help. And demand a lawyer immediately. Any lawyer. Matt Abel would be good, but if not, any lawyer. And keep your mouth shut until you talk to a lawyer. And when you do talk to the lawyer's going to tell you, keep your mouth shut. Any damage that's done has already been done. So if the police want to speak to you, the only reason they want to talk to you is because they don't have enough evidence on you. So don't help them and give them the rest of the case against you that they can use to prosecute. That being said, a famous person whose name I can't recall right now once said that if they can prohibit marijuana, that the Constitution of the United States isn't worth the hemp paper it's written on. Now, I personally believe that the laws against marijuana are unconstitutional. And I argue that in every case that I have the opportunity. And one of these days, some judge somewhere will agree. But in the meantime, we need to argue it in every case. We need to back up the criminal justice system on marijuana cases. We need to fight every case. But it's not my choice. I try to fight every case, but at some point the client decides that it's time to fish or cut bait, take a deal, or do whatever.
Yeah, you wouldn't help, man.
Some people have medical defenses, and the city of Detroit has a medical marijuana ordinance. I've not seen any cases yet in the last couple of years in Detroit where somebody had a valid medical defense where they were charged with a crime. Maybe the police are letting them go, I don't know. But if you see a case, I'd like to know about it. I'd be happy to assist any of you who have cases, who have lawyers already working on cases. I'll provide them with the work that I've done free of charge. The brief that I've written on constitutional issues that I wish more lawyers would argue. So I'm happy to pass that on. No, there may well be a medical
There's a band going to be playing. I don't know what time.
right to use marijuana. And someday the courts will hold that. And I also have some clients who believe that they have a spiritual right to use marijuana. Some of them are Christians and believe that it's referenced in the first page of the Old Testament about every seed-bearing plant God giveth. And I have other people who are basically atheists but believe that marijuana is a spiritual thing and they should have the right to use it to bring them closer to the earth. And then I have some clients who say, the hell with all that, I think I have a recreational right to use marijuana. Whether I'm spiritual about it, whether I need it medically, just because there's no reason why it should be illegal. And I agree with that. Now, there really is only one way to change the law in this country, and that is to repeal the federal law that prohibits marijuana, the Drug Control and Enforcement Act, the Controlled Substances Act. And the only way to do that is to get the legislators who are there now to vote to repeal like my Congressman Joe Toilet Bowl Nolenberg, try to get him to vote to repeal. Well, that's never going to happen. So the other way is to replace the congressman. Now, I've tried that. I've run for office 5 times, and the last time was 2 years ago. I ran against Toilet Bowl Joe Nolenberg on the Green Party ticket, and I came in 3rd. But I used to be a Democrat, and I've given up hope on the Democratic Party. I know some of my friends haven't, and more power to you. And I know that this year the Democrats finally passed a state resolution supporting medical marijuana, and thank our friend and the new executive director of Michigan Normal, Reverend Steve Thompson, for pushing that, who I'm sure is up in Traverse City or Benson County today doing the same thing we are right here. We are not alone. There are people all over Michigan doing this. So there's a lot of work to be done, and I think that the people in power are not going to change the law until we lead them. They're pretty good followers, and Senator Debbie Stabenow will be with us the day right after it passes, right after the vote happens and the vote is certified. She'll be right on board with us. But until then, we've got to fight all the way. We've got to lead the people. The people will follow. But the leaders aren't doing it. So we need to replace the leaders. Some of the people here need to run for Congress. We need Mike Whitty to be in Congress instead of Joel Nolenberg. And we need Marvin to be in Congress instead of Candace Miller.
Oh, yeah. Sure will.
And a lot of you here, I hope you'll think about it, because you need to talk to your congressperson and your state rep and your state senator.
See, now he said he wanted it there.
Ask them if they're going to vote to repeal the unjust marijuana laws. And if they're not, then you should run against them.
Goddamn, pick it up.
Because we either need the people there to change their minds, or we need to change the people there. So let's do that. Happy Million Marijuana March Day to you. Marijuana Liberation Day, May 5th. And may we all do this again next year in Amsterdam, as they say. Peace, brothers and sisters, and I'm turning it back over to Susan Sunshine. And thank you for the opportunity to speak. And I hope to meet you all soon.
Okay, moving right along, I'm going to introduce Felice. I don't know exactly what he wants to talk about, but he is a drummer, among other things, and he's going to explain or tell us what time we're going to start doing all that. We can all sing and dance and rejoice. And without further ado, here's Felice.
Hey, how you doing? I think Jay's got that plan for the drummer. The use of psychedelics has been something that's been going on like for literally millennia. In the Rig Vedas, the religious literature of the Vedic traditions that we know as the Hindus and later on the Jains and the Buddhists talk about the use of soma. Well, the Rig Vedas predate the Hebrew scriptures, the Old Testament. They predated. They're before that time. Not only did they use soma, a psychedelic plant, but so too did the Persians in their literature use a version of soma. So the plant was used, prayers were given up to a deity, and while the plant was sacramentally used. Now, I know many people at the Rainbow Gathering and other places, they use marijuana sacramentally, they use morning glory sacramentally, mushroom, and so on. This is, like I said, this religious tradition existed prior to our religious traditions, or the ones that supposedly rule our culture, the Judeo-Christian culture. So the use of psychedelic plants is something which just didn't start yesterday. Along the Nile, during the Egyptian civilization, people used to use marijuana and pray to their ancestors. While they did, they used it sacramentally there as well. If you study the works of Terence McKenna, you find out that people throughout the world have been using psychedelic plants in a ritual and religious way all over the globe. All over the globe. In fact, our culture, the Judeo-Christian and Islamic culture, the fundamentalists in those three traditions are the exception. They're the ones who want to make the use of the psychedelic plants and the religious use of it something to be prohibited, something to be condemned. When in fact, they're just trying to maintain control of people in society, just as they did in the United States. At one point in the United States pharmacology, in the list of medicinal plants that we had, over 100 of the pharmacology entries had marijuana as part of the medicine. And it wasn't until high-spirited legal people who wanted to exert pressure on blacks and Hispanics came along that they outlawed the plant. Yeah, right on, brother. I've had my own experiences with them. I do use them religiously. I use marijuana, mushrooms religiously. I pray to the Almighty. I have no qualms about that. I understand people don't believe in those things. That's fine. I happen to be one of those people who does, and I'm thankful for the existence of the plants. I'm thankful also for the fact that during the time I was hooked on my crack and heroin, it was marijuana that helped me get off of those drugs. You know, it's one thing to use like the coca plant, if you're living in South America, as I did for a year, and to get the leaf from the plant, powder it, use it. It's another thing to process gasoline, acetate, and all sorts of unknown chemicals, and then to put it in your body. And that's really what you're getting when you get the cocaine and crack. You're getting a heavily processed plant. You're not getting the natural plant. So, yeah, sure. I'm not trying to say that those
He actually had a pretty good eye. I didn't hardly notice.
Natural plant.
That's just the background.
I'm saying that. Just saying that the pure form of the plant is the best form. So when I was trying to get off of my addictions to cocaine and heroin, what I did is I remembered that when I ate marijuana, that I got into a deep state of relaxation. Those of you who have been addicted to heroin know that you keep on going back to the heroin because you're crawling up the walls if you give it up. If you're using it frequently, your body ceases to create endorphins in your own body. Those are the pleasure, the relaxation.
We're here for liberation.
You are your liberation. I'm just
You're putting it in from the outside. You're shooting up, you're putting in the endorphins from the outside, so your body shuts down. So as a result, when you stop putting it in from the outside, your body craves that relaxation and it can't get it because your body has shut down making endorphins. But when you cook marijuana, okay, I'm a vegetarian, I was a vegan at that time. I cooked my marijuana with in vegetable oil. I had rice and veggies. I cooked it for 20 minutes to half an hour. With my body weight, I used approximately a 1/16 of an ounce of it. And I did this 4 nights in a row. And I ate the food that had the THC in the oil. Now, when you have to cook it in oil, you can't cook it in water. It's oil soluble, not water soluble, THC in marijuana. But I cook it for 4 different nights. And my veggies and rice, olive oil, marijuana together. And each night I was able to go to sleep because the marijuana brought those endorphins back into my body. I did that 4 nights in a row. The 5th night I was able to just go to sleep on my own. So it helped me to kick the hard drugs which cause so much pain and anxiety in this culture. Jay wanted me to reiterate that because I talked about that last year. But anyway, there are many different reasons, why not only marijuana, but the other psychedelic plants should not be outlawed. It's only crazy cultures ruled by the rich who want to control people that cause these prohibitions. Here in Detroit, we're more sensible. In Ann Arbor, people are more sensible. They don't go around just arresting everybody who has dreads, for God's sake, for breaking down their doors, because they're not the tyrants and fascists that many of the people in the suburbs are. I'm thankful. I like Detroit for that reason. I like Ann Arbor for that reason. I like the other liberated cities that exist. Because they're not crazy people. They learn from the past, not to persecute people unjustly. So, God bless all of you. And work in whatever capacity that you can for the legalization or decriminalization of marijuana and the other psychedelic plants as well.
Of cannabis, that is. Now stay close, Felice.
One more thing here, because I've noticed now that we're starting to see some drummers, and I can only guess that I can thank Dr. Bob down Woodward at the NA Chiropractic for creating the beautiful love space where drummers can become affected and under the influence of an activist like me to come down to an event like this today. But Felice has volunteered to sort of be our official peace officer over the drum-related stuff, which will basically give him authority over the domain of the other side of Grand Circus Park. See, this year, for the first year, we're using the other side of Grand Circus Park. I've always pulled the permit for the whole thing, but we figured, you know, we were going to expand there. I wanted to put something there, you know, that would be also rally space. And in South Bend, Indiana, we do this thing called the Rainbow Farm Memorial Drum Circle. And we drum and we remember Rainbow Farm. We don't think about the aspect that two of my friends were murdered there. We think about the great times that we had there. We think about the fact that when you were at Rainbow Farm, it was like being in another country, because the police were gone. There was nobody who was going to come and throw you to the ground for smoking a joint. You had your tent. You had everything you needed supplied to you with this hippie city that would spring out of the nowhere. And then there's 3 streets with vendors selling hemp goods and hemp foods and everything else you need to be a hippie camping and living free in America. But this is hyper-America. This is better than America, more human than human. And so we drum with the intention of recalling that freedom and that vibe and that liberty and that egalitarian society that they had with their Council of 7 that made the decisions at Rainbow Farm. So Felice is the leader of our drummers, and he's going to come and kind of seek you guys out on the front lawn there, I think, maybe close to where the bus stop is, so that you can be seen there, and just start a little drumming like that. And then when he says that there's enough people to really get something going, he's going to lead you also. Follow him. And we'll have kind of like a little, maybe as much as you can drum and march, and just have a little drumming march kind of thing going on.
But is that going to be in a few minutes? Because you're still speaking. I have one more speaker.
Yeah, so give the mic back to Felice.
Okay.
His attention for
all right, I have one more speaker that just wants to come up for a couple minutes after Felice makes the announcement.
Oh, we've got lots of speakers.
Mikhail, a member of our younger generation, finally. Someone younger is going to come up here.
He's going to help you to peace officer.
I'm announcing to the drummers that we should meet on the other side of Woodward. Is that it?
You can start on this side in the lawn, because I want to see you guys before you go.
Okay.
But close to the sidewalk in the lawn there. And then we've got Mikhail coming up. This is cool.
Yeah. All right.
I come back up here in the pond here.
People keep just
step into the hot water with me.
But this is a message to everyone in this audience. This is not directed to you, and I really respect the elderly, but to the children, to the kids of my generation, we've been failed by our parents and our grandparents. Not all of our parents, not the ones that are here, but we live in a world. I walk down the street and I'm afraid of the police. I shouldn't be afraid of the police. I'm a good person. The only thing I really do wrong is smoke weed.
That's not wrong.
That's not wrong. Exactly.
Is the word.
Also,
that's wrong. I don't want to be right.
Let me start over. We've been failed by the generations above us, and it's our responsibility now to actually take action.
Speak into the microphone.
We're always told that we're kids, that we can't really do anything, but you can do something, and you have to do something, because otherwise you're going to grow up into a world that you don't want to live in. And this, scarily, we're getting to a point now where I could live in one of the last generations of humans on Earth. And that is a scary thought, unless we actually, as people of my age, do something. Do what you believe in. Go out there and actually decide, I believe in this. I'm going to go and let other people know. I'm going to put stickers up. I'm going to, whatever you do, whatever your way to express yourself is, do it, because you have to, because if you don't, this world will just keep going. That's all I want to say. No, that's all.
Subway green.
All right, thanks a lot. Yeah, don't put too much pressure on this kid, because I'm still trying to recruit him to be a leader here someday. We've got a lot of good good people. We got the youth representative. We have the Marijuana Policy Project was kind enough to send a representative down and check us out today. This one girl who does basically all the work for MPP in the state right now. And I know what that feels like, because there was a point when I was the only one doing work for Cures Not Wars in this state. And I was basically Cures Not Wars for a good 3 years without any help. And I was out there spreading the message about how there should be no legitimate excuse to bust someone for cannabis, and that there's a substance that stops addiction, and our government's been withholding it from us. So we've got a good gathering here now. I'm going to start out actually with laying down some of the rules of the rally now so we all understand.
Yeah, there are actually rules. You see, this Liberation Day event, this is not Ann Arbor Hash Bash. If you want to go to a big pot party, go to Ann Arbor Hash Bash, because that's the first Saturday of April, every first Saturday of April in Ann Arbor, Michigan. And we had the organizer of that event here this morning with John Sinclair, and unfortunately he didn't really give a speech about the Hash Bash. I was hoping he was going to do that. And of course, after the Hash Bash, they have the Monroe Street Affair, which is a nice thing too. It's a way of having more hash bash time, except on city property instead of university property. And again, that's something that is almost as naughty as Puff Puff Pass. So we have that, but every first Saturday of May is Liberation Day. And this day is a separate sort of event from a hash bash kind of event. We don't come here to break the law, we're here to change the law. So this isn't a smoke-in like you'll find here. Now the next stop for me is the D.C. smoke-in. Every 4th of July in Washington, D.C. in Lafayette Park, across the street from the White House, we have this big rally and smoke-in, and people party and nobody gets arrested. And then there's a march where people come out of the woodwork, and it's thousands of people marching to a free concert, topped off by the biggest fireworks show in the country. So if you can make it to D.C. on the 4th of July, do it. If you want a caravan with me, you know, you're all cool people. You get a hold of me. My contacts all over the flyers and stuff. And then, of course, there's Seattle Hemp Fest, the largest gathering for pot in the country, and it's a guaranteed crowd of 200,000 people. In 2004, it rained really bad, and that was the first time I saw them maybe only get 150,000 people, but it's a guaranteed huge crowd in Seattle, because in Seattle, it's a celebration. In Detroit, we've got a little bit to celebrate. We can celebrate our patients, our Susan Sunshines, and our Renee, who doesn't live here yet. But it's still a protest in America, and it's still a protest in Michigan, because the problem isn't fixed. And as far as I can tell, the politicians still aren't trying to fix it. Now, other state legislatures are picking up the concept, and they're starting to do stuff themselves.
Nice day.
And that's a good thing. But in Michigan, we still have the state ballot initiative. And that's a very important thing, and it's kind of strange that we do let a lot of people in from outside the state to come and help us with our ballot initiative, and some activists get offended when they hold the purse strings and they say, well, we'll pay for this aspect or that aspect of it, but you got to change your message. Because they did a poll in Nevada or somewhere about what the approval rating is for pot compared to medical pot, but I went door to door in Michigan for the PRA 2 times in a row. I was still petitioning for PRA when they were doing the petition for the Detroit initiative, and I can tell you that I have had a 70% approval rating for pot for industrial, recreational, and medical. So don't try to decide a policy for the state of Michigan based on what's happening in another state, because you don't understand us in Michigan if that's what you're doing. At least what helps. Come ask us. Because people in Michigan understand freedom. People in Michigan understand that you can't make part of God's creation illegal and get away with it. And people in Michigan understand that pot is medicine, and people understand that pot is the safe substitute. Pot is the anti-drug. Now you see these ads on TV, and I tell you what, man, they used to have the ads recited by the little toddler children, you know, that little ABC song. Now the ads look like they're actually being drawn by little toddler children. And I'm sure the budget hasn't gone down, so that money's going into somebody's pocket. But you see, I remember the ABC one. You all remember that one, right? It was like, to my ears, it sounded like this. ABC and NBC broadcast lies for ONDCP, CIA and IDA, DEA and the FBI. Now I know about the war on drugs, you see. Don't you DAREBS me. Because the knock on pot now is it's so safe, it's dangerous. It's so safe that I can't mow my yard or walk my dog. Oh, you know, when I look at your rhetoric, I'm so disappointed. I'm so disappointed in you. And then my little flag rolls up again. And then Marvin wants me to sing this song again at his next event. And yeah, I'll be available for that. Now, the drug heads are insane, you know, and they've gone all the way back to the 30s for their anti-pot propaganda. So, you know, I say we all need to get our pot pride going here. We know that there's a whole wealth of history and knowledge about cannabis, and that nothing bad was ever said about cannabis until the 30s in America, when that word marijuana came around. And I noticed that we've been using a little much marijuana, because I'm not into marijuana. So I'm telling you right now, if I hear you using marijuana, I'm losing my patience. And if the day's draining on, I haven't had some water, I might just punch you out. I'll smoke a joint, but I don't want to hear you use that word marijuana, because marijuana is a joke. Marijuana is a stupid thing. Marijuana disgusts me. If I could get through the rest of my day without marijuana passing across my lips one more time, then I could be a happy and successful hippie today in this park. Marijuana is a lie. Because marijuana is just a word. And you know what the real word is? It's cannabis. And that's the cannabis sativa plant. So if you want to talk to me about pot, I don't want to hear you use that word marijuana, because I just won't even know what you're talking about anymore. That's like alien language to me now. Marijuana is a word that they used to trick our government into making a law to outlaw the world's premier resource plant. The plant that was most of our medicine, at least of the medicine that worked. The plant that was most of our canvas, at least the canvas that was used in sailing ships. The plant that was most of our paper, or at least except for the paper, especially the paper that was important, like your deeds to properties, or your important legal documents, all on hemp paper. And now we're cutting down trees. Since the time of Cicero and White in the 1840s, we have cut down 30% of the trees we had left in this country. That all could have still been standing there and oxygenating the planet. And of course reproducing and spreading. If we'd have just continued using hemp and not cut down the trees to make paper and not cut down the trees. Looks like it's welded in the middle.
So this is what we're facing. We're facing a world of corruption, a world of confusion. We're living in the belly of the beast, as I preached this morning for those who are in service. Let me tell you the rules of the rally now. I'm all wrapped up here. I am Jay Statzer. I am the permit holder of this event. If you want to have fun here today, I just want to advise you that it is no safer to smoke here than on any other given day in the city of Detroit. Maybe even a little less safe, who knows? But the thing is, if I can see it, if one of my peace officers in the uniform shirts can see it, the hemp that they're wearing today, then you're doing it wrong. You know, so what we say is, you know, the buzz will last you. You can get high off the side and come back. That's fine. But the other thing about this event is there's no vending here. And there's a reason for that, because this is a First Amendment demonstration. This is not any kind of festival. We're not providing any kind of free entertainment. We're here specifically to educate people and reach out from the movement to the community here and find people who want to join and get active and do whatever they're talented to do to help free the weed someday in Michigan. The number one thing we can do today is start getting a hold of people who want to start passing out the statewide petition to legalize medical use in Michigan. And we'll have some practice with all sorts of activism. We've got a sign trading contest today. We're going to be giving out some cool prizes for the people who, on site, make a sign for the march by 4:20. And then we'll have a judging sometime maybe slightly before or after the march. And the sign-making materials are over here just ahead of me into the center side of the aisle there on the grass. And then we've also got plenty of signs made. So when it's ready, and you see a sign that you can agree with, just pick it and hold on to it, and then we'll gather you in for what we call a sidewalk march, which is something I'll explain when we get to 4 o'clock. So that's the other thing, is as a First Amendment demonstration, we're allowed to be here and to be high and to learn and to not have any hassles on ourselves, you know. So it's my job to make it as safe, fun, and easy as possible for that to happen for you to feel that you can come out and, again, get a piece of the movement that's going on in America. We also have, you know, no violence. We don't, of course, I don't mean to insult you, but, you know, no weapons, you know, don't bring in glass and break glass in here or anything like that. Try to pick up some trash on your way out, because we are, as myself and other peace officers, we're more like, you know, officers, we're more like in the military and maneuvers today, but for the rest of you, you're all just ambassadors. You're under our protection. We're here guarding the gates of the embassy, and you're inside, you know, taking care of business. Doing the fact-finding and stuff that ambassadors do. So as a good ambassador, you know, as you're around, pick up something, a couple pieces around you and pitch it in the trash for us. Help us clean the place up so that we can, with certainty, say that we've left this park in better shape than we found it. In fact, much better shape than we found it. So I'll thank you all in advance and in a continuing basis for that, as that goes. We will have the decision on whether we march today at somewhere around 4 o'clock. At 4 o'clock, I'll give a speech introducing the concept of the march, and then we'll start gathering, and then what we'll do is we'll take a vote. So I'm not going to just say, oh, okay, you guys all got to march. We're going to take a vote. So that if there's enough people who want to march, we'll decide, yeah, we'll go ahead and do the march. But if you don't want to do a march, I'm not going to force you to. I mean, I'm trying to make it safe and fun and easy for you. If I force you to march, that violates the easy rule, doesn't it? So, don't want to do that. And it's a freedom march for the people who are out of patience, to the patients out of patience. Let me tell you also about now Cures Not Wars, the organization of this event. Cures Not Wars is a New York-based event. The event that we're at today, this Liberation Day thing, is really just an outgrowth of the New York Pot Parade, which is one of the original pro-pot activities that came out of the 60s and anti-war generation movement. It started in 1970, and the DC Smokin' also started in 1970, and the Ann Arbor Hash Bash started in 1972. You look at these 3 events have been going on longer in a consistent year-by-year basis, have been annual longer than any event of any protest for any reason in the history of American politics. That's how much these people want it, and that's how much we deserve to be taken seriously. And it also shows how little we've actually been. And the part of the way they get to do that is with anecdotal evidence, the way they explain away the truth. The way they try to trick you into thinking that what's true and what's real is just something some hippie made up somewhere. Well, that's not how that happens. What we have also that some hippie did find was a substance called ibogaine. Did you know that our government, at least since the 50s, has known that there is a single treatment antidote for addiction, and they've kept it a secret from us? Not only did they keep it a secret from us, after finding out what it does, they went ahead and they made it illegal. And it's a Schedule I drug, right up there with pot. You know what's not a Schedule I drug? Cocaine. Cocaine's a Schedule II drug. Morphine is a Schedule II drug. Cocaine and morphine are technically more legal than ibogaine, which is the antidote to both those addictions. Go figure. There's America for you. There's your tax dollars hard at work for you. And the thing is, people say, well, what does ibogaine mean to the pot movement? Well, it means 2 things. First of all, the research on melatonin, which is the true neurotransmitter that your brain involves when you're getting high from THC, that research came out of the ibogaine research. They never would have discovered the melatonin release connection from when you smoke pot. Now, just quickly say, when you take your first 2 hits off of your weed, any grade of weed, you're going to get pretty much the best of it out of those first 2 hits, because what happens is your brain releases all the melatonin it has stored in the pituitary gland, and when that melatonin runs out, your brain doesn't have the ability to put out more until it manufactures it. And it usually means it has to recycle what's been used and then remanufacture it. So you get that initial feeling, And then, I mean, if you want to smoke to have fun, you should just put the joint down, because if you keep smoking, after you have melatonin and the REM dreamy rush it gives you, your reflex in your brain is to have a phase of deep sleep, and that's the relaxation mode that cannabis is so famous for. So you know the line. Everybody's hit the line. You know, you can do 1 or 2 tokes and you get that happy up head buzz feeling, or you can go a little further across the line and you start getting the body buzz relaxed kind of feeling. It's two hits in one. So that's the story about that. Knowing about melatonin and melatonin supplementation, you can enjoy your pot highs better, and you can avoid sleep deprivation, which you can sometimes get from smoking pot at the wrong times of the day. But that research came out of the ibogaine study, because ibogaine is very similar to melatonin. Melatonin is basically made of tryptamine. Tryptamine is your own natural hallucinogenic, dream-generating drug that your pituitary gland creates. So tryptamine is a single molecule. Now, you might have heard of tryptophan, like from a turkey dinner. That's like, you can think of it as like 2 or 3 tryptamine molecules strung together, kind of weak, but it'll make you relaxed and drowsy. Melatonin that pot makes you release is like a string of maybe 10 or 20 tryptamine molecules, so it's a higher, dreamier kind of effect. Then there used to be a drug called DMT, dimethyltryptamine, and that is like a chain of hundreds of tryptamine molecules strung together, and that'll put you into a waking dream phenomena for a good hour, and then you come down real fast. Now imagine. And by the way, dreaming is the most healthy thing your brain can do. Dreaming is when your brain takes the raw data that you get in during the day and transmutes that into knowledge and learning and understanding. So dreaming is important, and when you don't get your dreaming, it affects your health. If you have a disease that keeps you up, you need something that you can get good dreamy sleep, because it's important to your health. And it's important to my health too, and even though I'm a perfectly healthy cannabis user since I was 12. What we have is, can you imagine a string of hundreds of thousands of tryptamine molecules that are enough to have you in hard REM waking dream sleep for 24 hours? What that will do is, if you're an addict, it'll wash the junk chemistry out of your brain. It'll reset all your neurotransmitter receptors to the point where they are putting out their proper levels of all their appropriate neurotransmitters. It goes back down to the DNA level in your brain and says, what's supposed to be happening here? Okay, now let's get back to it. That's what's happening with ibogaine. And that's why ibogaine is the antidote to addiction. That is why ibogaine proves that pot is not addictive. And when I show church groups and conservatives the ibogaine information, they say, well, what's with all these pot leaves and stuff? What's with all these hippies? I have to tell them that, look, the hippies and the potheads and the nonconformists and the radicals are the ones who brought out the antidote to addiction and shamed our government into taking a Schedule I drug and putting it in FDA federal approval trials. And ibogaine has finished its FDA Phase 1 trials. It has Phase 2 and Phase 3 to go. The good news. The bad news, of course, is the Bushites and the government and the drug warriors have yanked the money and won't pay for the FDA study. So again, it's a bunch of hippies, it's a bunch of drug addicts who had their victory through ibogaine, and their families who have donated the money required to pay for an FDA fund that our DEA could pay for in 1 month's worth of its annual budget. That's the war on drugs for you. That's why the war on drugs is a fraud, and that's why we'll continue to spread the cures not wars message of ibogaine and all pot until the day I die. If I become the president of some organization or an executive director, I'm not going to retire. I'm not going to resign until the problem's solved, because that's just not the way I play it. I don't have a choice. Now, I don't have a choice not to fight this, because I can only speak of the things I've seen and heard. I don't have a choice because it's a burden on me that I'm not putting down for nothing. But I still have a choice. Some people don't have a choice. I'll tell you something about choice. The homeless people in the city of Detroit make it to this event every year. They wake up and they see me putting together a rally in what's basically their front yard. And they're like, what's this crazy white guy doing? But he looks okay. He's not going to hurt me. And I've found that some of these people have just had better ideas, been more motivated, have done more to help the movement than I've seen from a busload of white suburban activists from some very organized organizations out there, I'm sure. And they're here because they have that level of freedom that comes from not having a choice. you know. And then, of course, we've got a president who had his daddy buy his freedom for him. And then we also have the people who have no choice because they have a body-racking and nerve-wracking disease, a serious disease that puts them under in a way that would torture anyone. We would want to die. I would want to die. I couldn't live like that. Even with the immense help she's gotten, you know, she's also dabbled in the Western medicine and has suffered damage. I've had to drive this woman, I'm talking about Renee Emery Wolf in this particular case, I've had to drive her to the hospital before because she stopped using her cannabis medicine and said, well, I'm going to give their latest thing. They had some new treatment, I'm not sure what the hell they even call it, but she said, well, this is something new, this sounds like it might be valid science, I'm going to try it. And the lack of relief was so bad that she was in agony and had to be wheeled back into the hospital. And this is just one of the many stories that this woman can tell you. She's a true activist. She's not going to retire because, of course, she's going to be in this body for life. And we're knowing that you're going to get a wonderful, glorious body very soon. But until then, you're doing what you can about this sin, this blasphemy against God's prime plant. So tell us some stuff, Renee.